Please give her a warm welcome, guys. Eveline van Rijswijk.
I have a confession to make. I'm a historian. Are there more historians out there? One, two. Are there people in the room who know historians? Sorry for you. What happens when you walk down the streets or when you're biking with a historian? This is what happens. At one point, the historian will see an old building, a statue or a monument, and then they're gone. Because then they'll immediately start to take a look at this old building or the statue or this monument, and that's what happens when I walk the streets. So sorry for my friends out there that you always lose me when you're walking with me on the streets. I find them fascinating. I mean, history is out there, there's so much to see. For instance, in Amsterdam, you can find beautiful statues. For instance, of the man to the left, Rembrandt, and then the other greatest artist of Amsterdam, Hazes. I mean, famous man. But I'm not really interested in these kind of statues. I mean, they're nice, there are tourists who take photos of them, but they're not really exciting. They're actually really history, especially Rembrandt, not very controversial, everyone loves him, Japanese people take photos of him and that's it. Maybe Hazes is controversial. If you think his music sucks, you think he doesn't deserve a statue, then he's quite controversial, but that's about it. My passion is about controversial monuments. So statues of people who are crooks, who are badass men, who got a statue because they were dictators of some kind of country. And at one point there's a regime change and then people say, okay, we have to get rid of the dictator. This one you all know. 2003, I was 15 years old, and this is an iconic image. Saddam Hussein, kind of sad. It was his birthday present when he turned 65. It was in 2002. He got this beautiful present, and then within a year, the U.S. troops came and they pulled it down. It was toppled, and did you notice the man here already? He was throwing his shoe, and of course that's disrespect. A sign of disrespect. So I find this fascinating. What's happening here? And do we have more of these statues that are so controversial that people want to tear them down and want to get rid of them? The ironic thing is that last year, also in Iraq, this happened. Islamic State is toppling, is pulling down the statues, ancient statues, more than 1,000 years old. And they're also destroying them. This is called iconoclasm. Maybe you can also compare this with what the Protestants did, with the Catholics. Now, I come from the south of the Netherlands, so I'm Catholic. It's kind of the same, right? That you destroy, it's like cultural cleansing. You destroy the statues of the Catholic Church, you destroy the statues of one culture because you think your culture is better or because you think the regime has to change. Now my favorite example of this has to do with the Soviet Union. Now I bet you immediately recognize it. These are the boots of Stalin. Right? Very clear. These are the boots of Stalin. This photo is from 1965, no, 1956. And here we see two boys and they've sawed the ankles of Stalin. The statue was pulled down, and here they're celebrating because Hungary was part of the Soviet Union, and they want to get rid of the influence of the Soviet Union. Now, what happened with the head of Stalin? That's what we see here. Just like you could throw your shoe at it, you can also spit on it, of course, and people were wanted to get rid of the influence of Stalin. By the way, Stalin was dead already for 3 years, so he didn't live to see this. Now, as a historian, I immediately start to wonder what happened with those boots. I mean, the boots were there. It was a sarcastic reminder of Stalin, but what happened afterwards? Because this talk is also like I'm providing you with a Lonely Planet for Controversial Monuments. So after this talk, you can just go on a holiday and you can visit controversial monuments. So forget about your beach holiday. Next time you go on holiday, you search for controversial monuments. And of course, I think you would like to take a selfie with Stalin, with Lenin, and you can. Because in Budapest, there's a theme park where you can now see Lenin. You can put your finger in the nose of Lenin if you want to. You can do like that. And here you think you see the boots. But as a historian, I did some research, they're fake. This is a replica, so I'm sorry. But they're so iconic that, of course, they're in that park. You can also go to Lithuania, because also in Lithuania there's a theme park. And this is kind of spooky, right? That you can see Stalin over there and Lenin, and it makes me think like, oh, Lenin, be careful, because Stalin's out there, and he's there, he's going to get you, so kind of scary. But you can go to Budapest, you can go to Lithuania to take a selfie with one of these statues. And I bet you also think, well, in Germany, of course, in East Berlin, in Eastern Germany, there are also many of these statues of Lenin and Stalin. Famous one is this one. That was at Leninplatz, and it was removed in 1991. And then they sawed it into 130 pieces, and they buried it in the woods outside of Berlin. Last year, someone said, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we can find it again, and then put it in a museum, because we want to have a nice exhibition about Lenin. And then the municipality said, we have no idea where it is. Now, can you believe that? That this statue, this large, 130 pieces, and they had no idea where it was. Thanks to a researcher, they found it, and a couple of months ago, there we have it. I think it's so funny, he's blindfolded. I mean, he has no clue what's happening to him, but he has been underground. Lenin is very underground. He was underground for 25 years, and now he's back again. So you can also go to Budapest, you could go to Lithuania, and to Berlin to see those statues. Now, what also happened with these statues is that someone bought a statue of Lenin. He thought, wouldn't it be nice to have a statue of Lenin? So this is a little quiz element. Where is this statue? The eastern part of Groningen. For those of you who've never been there, it's up there. It's north. So don't go to Lithuania, don't go to Budapest or Berlin. You can just go to see Lenin in the northern part of the Netherlands. Okay, actually you can't anymore because it was removed in 2000. But from 1997 until 2000, this 9-meter-high Lenin statue was standing in the north of Groningen, or the east of Groningen. You come there from there? No, but you went on a holiday there. Yeah, to see it. So I bet you all think, okay, all these Lenin and Stalin statues, they're gone for a couple of years now, or they're in a museum or in a theme park, etc. But in Ukraine, there's still many of these statues. But as you've heard in the news, in the last 2 years, there was a revolt in Ukraine, and because of the anti-Russian feelings, they said, okay, we're going to remove them. So this is what happened in Ukraine, and there were also quite creative people. They said, okay, we also have this statue in Ukraine, maybe we can do something with it. And when I look at him, it also makes me think of someone. And this artist also thought that, so he thought, you know what, let's turn Lenin into Darth Vader. Yes. So Lenin was turned into Darth Vader. I don't know if Russia is very happy with it. I mean, it's a sign of evil. It's a reference to the United States. And the funny thing is, there's a Wi-Fi spot in his head, so you can go there and the force is with you here in this session. Another funny thing is that not only in Ukraine, but also in Georgia, where Stalin was born, they were kind of proud of Stalin. So until 2010, there was this statue of Stalin in Georgia. But then they removed it in 2013, and it's lying there on the floor for 2 years now. But then the municipality said, what a shame actually, we should put the statue back again. So they're actually talking about taking the statue and putting it back on the main square in the city in Georgia. I don't know where exactly. So we've seen Lenin and Stalin, what happened with those leaders. But maybe you're also thinking, what happened with that other crook in the 20th century history? What about Hitler? Now, who of you has seen a statue of Hitler when they were on holiday in Germany? Okay. But maybe you're thinking, maybe there were statues. Maybe they were vandalized, they were toppled, or they were also buried, or anything. This is a bust of Hitler, and that's about it. There were no large statues of Hitler. It wasn't part of the fascist ideology to make it. But you can take a selfie with Hitler. The only thing is you have to go to London, to Madame Tussauds. And this statue was made, this wax model was made in 1933. And back then, they were friends. So Nazi Germany and England had actually a good relation. So in 1933, this wax figure appeared in London. You can say he's a loser, you can kick his ass. Again, you can do something, I don't know what, with his nose or mouth. And I don't think the men up there got the whole idea. The funny thing also is that at one point they put Hitler next to Saddam in one room. That's also quite a statement, I think. And then they thought in Berlin, where they also have Madame Tussauds, you know what? They have it in London since 1933, why not also have Hitler in Berlin? So in 2008, they made a wax model of Hitler. On the first day that the museum was opened with this statue, a man came down to the museum and he decapitated or beheaded this statue. So I think it's a good thing that there are no statues anywhere from Hitler, because by now he would have been vandalized and decapitated and buried and I don't know what. One thing is that in the Warsaw Ghetto, 2 years ago, an artist made this wax model of Hitler, and he put it a little bit hidden over there, so you can't see it properly. You have to peek through and then you see it. But of course there was a gigantic fuzz about it, because they said this is so controversial, and especially when you do it in the Warsaw Ghetto where so many Jews were murdered. So maybe it's a good thing that the Nazis never made those statues of Hitler. Something else that's happening in the past 10 years is that also colonial monuments, so not only the Nazis and the socialist monuments, but also the colonial rulers are also criticized. Columbus, for instance. Funny thing is, it's 500 years ago. This statue has been there forever, but now also the colonial emperors are also criticized. Or actually, Columbus, of course, he discovered the Americas. 510 years of oppression. And of course, his hands are covered in blood. There's an X on his head, and there's also a reference to Black Lives Matter. So this is a new way of criticizing colonial empire. And in Venezuela it worked, because there, of course, because they are part of that history, the statue of Columbus was top. Now, I see you thinking, the Netherlands also has a colonial history, a very nice history. We also have beautiful statues reminding of the Dutch East India Company and how brave we were and how wealthy we became. So I bet you also expect that we also go down the street and we tear down Jan Pieter Silcoon and all those other Dutch heroes from the 17th century. So I'm going to show you this image. This is Jan Pieter Silcoon. He was the head of this Dutch East India Company. And to the right you see one badass protester. I think he toppled it. Okay, this is not the case, but it's a really funny story, because at one point someone made a mistake and then the statue fell. So it fell down on the floor, and then there was a fuss about it, because it was lying there on the floor, and then people started saying, oh wow, we have a statue of Jan Pieter Silcoon, and it's there in Hoorn, where he was born. And then, because he was lying there on the floor, they were saying, maybe, should we actually put it back? Because at one point he killed a large part of the population of the Banda Islands. Controversy about it. Should we put it back? And then, as we do in the Netherlands, there was a debate about it. And you could actually write emails what you thought about it, and they had like a poll, opinion poll, and then 63% of the people said, that's okay, you can put it back, but you should write down on the statue, as you can see here, there's a little sign, and there it says like, this is Jan Pieters van Koen, this is what he did, he's brilliant. P.S. He did something at the Banda Islands, and it wasn't okay. So that's the Dutch way of solving a problem with the controversial monument. Now in South Africa, that's a completely different case, because in South Africa, what happened last year, is that there was a controversy about Sessile Rhodes. And Sessile Rhodes was born in Britain, and he colonized Southern Africa, and he was also, he was involved in the racial segregation of people. Here we see the statue of Sessile Rhodes, and to the right we see that whenever you are fed up with a statue, you can of course put graffiti on it, or paint, or like the red paint we've seen, but it's a better statement when you pull excrement on it, poop, you can pee on it, and so on, and that was the statement he made. It worked, because this was standing on the campus of the university, and the university said, okay, maybe we should get rid of Sessile Rhodes. After the campaign, Rhodes must fall. And this is the moment where it happened. They removed the statue. There was a huge crowd there. And again, just like with the shoe, or you're spitting on the statue, here again this man is so angry about Sessile Rhodes that he's punching. Now, I've showed you some monuments, some statues that are controversial from the socialist time, from the Nazi time, from the colonial time. And I think now this is also a crash course in how to deal with monuments. So now I've given you a nice overview, I think, of what to do when you don't like a statue in your country. I mean, be creative. There's a lot you can do with it. And I thought it would be also nice to give a nice advice to dictators, because, I mean, I cannot only give the advice to the protesters, I also should give an advice to the men and women who want to have a statue of themselves. And that advice is, make it large. See, it works in North Korea, huge statues, and it's kind of difficult to topple this one, I guess. To wrap it up, I want to show you a short film, what might be the solution for our monument problem. Because as a historian, I think building statues is a little bit problematic. Because normally with history, it's an ongoing debate about the past. Whereas if you make a monument or a statue, it's written in stone, and then it's difficult to discuss it. So this could be the solution. It's a reference, of course, to the Saddam Hussein statue. This is George Bush in 2009, and maybe if we have inflatable monuments, this could be the solution.
Woo!